The sun was beginning its slow descent toward the Arizona horizon when the stranger rode into Millbrook Valley, his horse limping and his hat pulled low against the dust that seemed to coat everything in this god-forsaken corner of the territory. From her kitchen window, Anna Carpenter watched him approach her small farmhouse with the wariness of a woman who had learned to be careful of unexpected visitors. At 28, Anna had been widowed for 3 years, left to manage her late husband's struggling farm with nothing but determination and the kind of quiet strength that frontier life demanded. The drought had lasted 2 seasons now. Her few remaining cattle looked as tired and dusty as everything else in the valley. Most of her neighbors had already given up and moved on, leaving Anna increasingly isolated in a landscape that seemed determined to break her spirit. The stranger dismounted carefully, favoring his left leg, and Anna could see that both man and horse had traveled far and hard. His clothes were well-made, but travel-worn, and there was something in the way he carried himself, despite the obvious exhaustion and pain, that spoke of education and refinement beneath the dust and stubble. Anna dried her hands on her apron and stepped onto the porch, her rifle within easy reach, but her expression cautiously welcoming. "Evening, mister. Ow. You look like you could use some help." The man looked up, and Anna felt her breath catch. Even shadowed by his hat brim, his eyes were the deep blue of a clear winter sky. And when he smiled, weary but genuine expressions, something inside her chest fluttered in a way it hadn't since Robert had died. "Evening, ma'am. I'm sorry to trouble you, but my horse threw a shoe about 5 miles back, and I'm afraid we're both pretty well played out." His voice carried the cultured tones of an Eastern education. But there was something else beneath it, a warmth that made Anna's instinctive caution begin to fade. "No trouble at all," Anna found herself saying. "Why don't you get your horse some water from the trough there, and I'll see about supper. You're welcome to stay the night if you need to. There's a lean-to behind the barn that'll keep you dry." The stranger removed his hat, revealing thick, dark hair touched with premature silver at the temples. "That's very kind of you, Mrs. Dodd." "Carpenter?" "Anna Carpenter." She hesitated, then added, "I'm widowed." "I'm sorry for your loss," he said with genuine sympathy. "I'm Michael, Jordan." The slight pause before his surname made Anna wonder if he was telling her the complete truth. But she'd learned not to pry into the reasons people might have for keeping their business private. As Michael tended to his horse, Anna went back inside and surveyed her sparse pantry with growing embarrassment. She'd been planning on beans and cornbread for her own supper, hardly fair fit for a guest, especially one who spoke and carried himself like a gentleman. But it was all she had, and frontier hospitality demanded that she share whatever she could offer. By the time Michael knocked softly on her door, the sun was painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson that made even her humble farmhouse look beautiful in the fading light. Anna had managed to stretch her simple meal with some preserved peaches and the last of her coffee, setting the table with her mother's good, china-chipped, but still serviceable. "Please, sit," she said, suddenly self-conscious about the modesty of her home. The kitchen was clean but sparse, with more empty shelves than full ones. She was acutely aware of the patches in her dress and the way her hands showed the calluses of hard work. Michael settled into the chair she indicated, but not before pulling out her own chair for her courtesy that spoke of good breeding and made Anna's cheeks warm with unexpected pleasure. When was the last time anyone had treated her like a lady rather than just another struggling farmer? "This looks wonderful," Michael said, as she served him beans and cornbread that she knew were plain at best. "It's not much," Anna replied, taking her own seat. "Times have been hard with the drought and all." Michael took a bite and made a sound of genuine appreciation that surprised her. "It tastes like home," he said simply, and something in his voice made Anna look at him more carefully. There were lines around his eyes that spoke of worry and sleepless nights. And despite his refined speech, his hands bore calluses of their own. This was a man who had known hard work, who understood the value of a simple meal shared in friendship. "Are you from around here originally?" Anna asked, curiosity getting the better of her natural reserve. Michael's smile turned rueful. "Upon a time. I've been away for many years, but I'm hoping to reconnect with my roots, you might say." As they ate, their conversation flowed with surprising ease. Michael proved to be an engaging companion, asking thoughtful questions about her farm, her life, the challenges of the drought. He listened with the kind of attention that made Anna feel like her words actually mattered, like she was more than just a forgotten widow struggling to survive on the edges of civilization. "You're managing all this land by yourself?" he asked. Genuine admiration in his voice as he looked out the window at her modest spread. Anna felt heat flood her cheeks. "I do what I can. It's not much compared to what it once was, but it's home." "It takes real courage to stay when others have given up," Michael said quietly. "Your husband would be proud of you." The simple words spoken with such sincerity brought unexpected tears to Anna's eyes. It had been so long since anyone had acknowledged her struggles or recognized the strength it took to keep going day after day. "I'm sorry," she said, wiping at her eyes with embarrassment. "I don't know what's come over me." "Don't apologize," Michael said gently. "Sometimes it helps to have someone witness how hard you're fighting." After supper, they sat on the porch, in the gathering darkness, sharing the comfortable silence that comes between people who understand each other without need for constant words. The night air carried the scent of sage and dust, and overhead the stars began to appear with the brilliant clarity only possible in the vast emptiness of the desert. "It's beautiful here," Michael said softly, his eyes on the star-filled sky. "Lonely, though," Anna admitted before she could stop herself. Michael turned to look at her, his expression thoughtful. "Yes, I imagine it would be." Something passed between them in that moment, an understanding, a spark of connection that made Anna's heart race with possibilities she hadn't dared to consider in years. This stranger, with his kind eyes and gentle manner, was awakening feelings she'd thought buried with her husband. "I should let you get some rest," Michael said finally, rising from his chair. "Thank you for the meal and the hospitality. I haven't felt this welcome anywhere in longer than I care to remember." Anna stood as well, reluctant to see the evening end. "You're welcome to stay longer if you need to, until your horse is fit to travel." Michael's smile was warm and grateful. "That's very kind. Perhaps another day or two if you don't mind the company." "I don't mind at all," Anna said, meaning it more than she probably should have, as she watched him walk toward the barn. Anna felt a mixture of anticipation and anxiety that kept her awake long into the night. She barely knew this man, but something about him called to the lonely, aching parts of her heart in a way that was both wonderful and terrifying. Michael stayed for 3 days, and they were the best days Anna had known since Robert's death. He proved to be handy with repairs, fixing her broken fence posts and the loose board on her porch with the easy competence of a man who understood how things worked. But it was his company she treasured most, the way he listened when she talked about her dreams for the farm. The gentle humor that made her laugh for the first time in months, the respectful attention he paid to everything from her opinions on the weather to her stories about the valley's history. On his final evening, as they shared another simple supper, Anna found herself memorizing every detail of his face, every inflection of his voice. Tomorrow he would ride away, and she would be alone again, with only memories of these few perfect days to sustain her. "Anna," Michael said as they finished eating, "I need to tell you something." The serious tone of his voice made her stomach clench with anxiety. "What is it?" Michael was quiet for a long moment, his fingers turning his coffee cup in slow circles. "I haven't been entirely honest with you about who I am." Anna's heart sank. Of course, she'd been foolish to think that a man like Michael, educated, refined, clearly from money, would have any real interest in a struggling widow farmer. No doubt he had a wife waiting for him somewhere, or obligations that made their growing connection impossible. "I see," she said quietly, trying to keep the hurt from her voice. "No, I don't think you do." Al reached across the table and covered her hand with his own. "My name isn't really Jordan. Sinclair. Michael Sinclair." Anna stared at him, her mind struggling to process what he was telling her. Sinclair. The name was familiar, but she couldn't quite place why. "I'm sorry," she said. "I don't understand." And Michael's smile was sad and complicated. "My family owns most of the mining operations in this territory, Anna. Copper, silver, some gold. We have interests in California, Nevada, Colorado. Probably by this entire county without thinking twice about it. The words hit Anna like a physical blow. She pulled her hand away from his, her chair scraping against the floor as she stood abruptly. "You're rich," Harry Michael confirmed quietly. Anna turned away from him, her mind reeling. Everything made sense now: his educated speech, his refined manners, the quality of his clothes despite their travel wear. He was slumming, playing at being a common traveler while she'd been serving him beans and cornbread like he was some kind of charity case. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice tight with humiliation and growing anger. Michael rose and moved toward her, but Anna stepped away. "'Cause I wanted to know what it felt like to be treated as just a man, not as a Sinclair fortune. Do you know how long it's been since someone cooked for me without expecting something in return? Since someone talked to me because they enjoyed my company rather than because they wanted my money. So I was an experiment," Anna said bitterly. "A chance for the rich man to play pretend with the poor widow." "No," Michael said firmly. "Anna, what happened between us, what's still happening, it's the most real thing I've felt in years." Anna laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What's happening between us? You mean the part where I made a fool of myself feeding you my humble meals and telling you my problems like you might actually care?" "I do care," Michael said desperately. "More than I've ever cared about anything." "Then why lie to me?" Anna demanded, turning to face him with tears streaming down her cheeks. "Why let me embarrass myself serving you beans when you probably eat off silver plates every night?" "How?" Michael's face was etched with pain and regret. "Because those beans, served with your kindness and your smile, were worth more to me than 1,000 fancy dinners. Because for 3 days, I got to be the man I actually am instead of the heir everyone expects me to be." Anna wanted to believe him, God. How she wanted to believe him, but the gulf between their circumstances seemed insurmountable. "We come from different worlds, Michael. I'm a dirt-poor widow with a failing farm. I'm a lonely man who's been pretending to be happy for so long, I'd forgotten what the real thing felt like," Michael interrupted. "What? Until I met you?" The raw honesty in his voice made Anna's anger falter, replaced by a confusion almost as painful. "Ow, what are you?" saying. Michael stepped closer, his blue eyes intense and pleading. "I'm saying I love you, Anna. I love your strength, your kindness, your refusal to give up even when everything seems hopeless. I love the way you make a simple meal feel like a feast, the way you find beauty in this harsh landscape, the way you trusted a stranger enough to welcome him into your home." Anna's breath caught in her throat. "Michael, I know it seems impossible," he continued. "I know the differences between us look insurmountable. But Anna, I've spent my whole life surrounded by wealth and privilege, and I've never been as happy as I was these past 3 days, eating your cooking and fixing your fence and watching the sunset from your porch." Anna stared at him, her heart warring with her practical mind. "Even if what you're saying is true, what kind of future could we possibly have? I can't fit into your world, and you certainly can't fit into mine." "Why not?" Michael asked. "Who says I can't choose to live simply? Who says I can't prefer a small farmhouse to a mansion if the farmhouse comes with the woman I love?" The words were everything Anna had dreamed of hearing, but they seemed too good to be true. "Your family would never accept me. I'm nobody, Michael. I have nothing to offer a man like you." Michael reached for her hands, and this time she didn't. "Pull away. You have everything to offer. You have love, loyalty, strength, courage, all the things that actually matter. As for my family, ... He paused, his expression growing troubled. "That's more complicated." Anna felt a chill of premonition. "What do you mean?" Michael sighed deeply. "There's more to why I'm here, Anna. I didn't come to this valley by accident." Anna's stomach dropped. "What aren't you telling me? My family's mining company has been buying up land all through this territory. Mineral rights mostly, but also water rights where they can get them." Michael's voice grew heavy with reluctance. "Including this valley." Anna felt the blood drain from her face. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying my father sent me here to finalize the purchase of the remaining properties in Millbrook Valley, including yours." The betrayal hit Anna like a physical blow. She jerked her hands away from his, backing toward the door. "Get out." "Anna, please get out." Anna's voice cracked with pain and fury. "You came here to steal my land and you thought you'd seduce me first to make it easier? That's not what happened," Michael said desperately. I had no idea whose farm this was when I stopped here. I was just a man with a lame horse looking for help. But you knew when you stayed, Anna shot back? You knew when you were sitting? At my table letting me feed you and bare my soul to you, that you were planning to take everything I have left. Michael's face was anguished. Yes, I knew. I should have told you sooner. But Anna, you have to believe me, my feelings for you are real. They changed everything. Changed what? Your plans to destroy my home. It's changed my plans entirely. Michael said quietly, I'm not going to buy your land, Anna. I told my father's representatives that the deal is off. Anna stared at him, hardly daring to hope. What? I sent a telegram yesterday. I'm not taking your farm. I'm not taking anyone's farm in this valley. I won't be responsible for destroying the place that brought me back to life. The gesture was grand and romantic, but Anna's practical mind immediately seized on the implications. And what happens when your father finds out you've disobeyed him? What happens to your family's business? Michael's smile was rueful. I imagine I'll be disowned. Cut off from the family fortune. Probably disinherited entirely. Anna felt tears spring to her eyes. Michael, you can't do that. You can't throw away everything for me. I'm not throwing anything away, Michael said gently. I'm choosing what matters. I'm choosing love over money, Anna over duty, happiness over obligation. But if you have nothing, I'll have you, Michael interrupted. If you'll have me, I may not be able to offer you a life of luxury, but I can offer you my heart, my hands, my complete devotion. We can work this farm together, build something real and lasting. Anna looked at this man, this wealthy heir who was willing to give up everything for her. Hand felt her heart breaking with the impossibility of it all. Michael, even if I believed you meant it now, what happens in 5 years when you're tired of being poor? When you miss your old life and start to resent me for costing you your fortune? That will never happen, Michael said with absolute certainty. Don't know that, Anna replied sadly. And I can't ask you to sacrifice everything for me. It's too much. Michael was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke again, his voice was thick with unshed tears. So where does that leave us? Anna closed her eyes, feeling as if her heart were being torn in two. It leaves you going back to your world, and me staying in mine. Anna, please, she whispered. Just go. Before this gets any harder than it already is. Michael stared at her for a long moment, his blue eyes bright with pain and desperate love. Finally, he nodded slowly. If that's what you want, it's what's best for both of us, Anna said, though the words felt like lies on her. Tongue, Michael picked up his hat and moved toward the door, but paused with his hand on the latch. For what it's worth, Anna, these 3 days with you have been the happiest of my life. Whatever happens next, I'll never forget what you gave me. After he left, Anna sank into her chair and wept until she had no tears left. She'd found love, and lost it in the space of 3 days, and the farmhouse that had felt so comfortable with Michael's presence now seemed empty and cold. The weeks that followed were the darkest Anna had known since Robert's death. She threw herself into the endless work of maintaining the farm. But everything reminded her of Michael, the fence posts he'd repaired, the board he'd fixed on the porch, the chair where he'd sat across from her at meals she heard nothing from. Him, and told herself it was for the best. He would return to his wealthy family, find some society bride who could match his background, and eventually forget about the poor widow who had briefly captured his heart. It was the way these things worked in the real world, no matter what romantic novels might suggest. But late at night, lying alone in her bed, Anna allowed herself to remember the way Michael had looked at her, the gentleness of his hands, the absolute sincerity in his voice when he'd told her he loved her. Had she been a fool to send him away? Had she let pride and fear cost her the only chance at happiness she might ever have? The answer came 6 weeks later in the form of a letter delivered by the territorial mail service. Anna recognized the careful handwriting immediately, and her hands shook as she broke the seal. My dearest Anna, I hope this letter finds you well, and that you'll forgive the liberty I'm taking in writing to you. I know you asked me to go, and I've respected your wishes. But there are things I need you to know. First, you were right about my family. My father was furious when he learned I'd refused to complete the land purchases in Millbrook Valley. Officially disowned me, cut me off from the family business and fortune entirely. I'm no longer Michael Sinclair, heir and businessman. I'm just Michael, a man trying to figure out how to make his way in the world with nothing but his education and his hands. Second, I don't regret it, not for a moment. The man I was before I met you was hollow, going through the motions of a life that meant nothing to him. You showed me what it felt like to be truly alive, to find purpose in simple things, to love with my whole heart. I'd rather be poor with that knowledge than rich without it. Third, and most importantly, my feelings for you haven't changed. If anything, they've grown stronger during these weeks apart. I wake up every morning thinking of your smile, and I fall asleep every night remembering the sound of your laughter. You are in my blood, Anna Carpenter, and I don't think any amount of time or distance will change that. I'm not writing to ask you to reconsider your decision. I understand why you sent me away, and I respect your reasons. But I wanted you to know that if you ever change your mind, if you ever decide that love might be worth the risk after all, I'll be in Tucson. It's working as a surveyor for the territorial government. It's honest work that pays enough to live on. And I'm finding satisfaction in building something with my own hands instead of inheriting it. Know that whatever you decide, you'll always have my heart. You saved me, Anna, in ways I'm still discovering. Forever yours, Michael. Anna read the letter 3 times, her heart aching with love and longing, and a terror that felt almost overwhelming. Michael had given up everything for her, his fortune, his family, his entire way of life. He was in Tucson, alone, working for wages when he could have been living in luxury, and he was still willing to wait for her. That evening, as Anna sat on her porch watching another spectacular desert sunset, she finally allowed herself to face the truth she'd been running from. She loved Michael Sinclair, not his money or his status, but the man himself, the man who fixed fences and listened to her dreams and made beans and cornbread taste like a feast through the simple magic of his presence. She'd sent him away out of fear, convincing herself that she was protecting them both from inevitable heartbreak. But what if she'd been wrong? What if love really was worth the risk? What if the happiness they'd found together, brief as it was worth fighting for? The drought finally broke 3 days later, with a thunderstorm that seemed to shake the very mountains. Anna stood on her porch watching the rain pour down on her parched land. And suddenly she knew with crystal clarity what she had to do. It took her 2 days to arrange for her neighbor to watch the farm, pack her few belongings, and make the journey to Tucson. Anna had never been to a town that large, and the bustling streets and numerous buildings felt overwhelming after the isolation of the valley, but she was determined to find Michael, to tell him that she'd been wrong, that love was indeed worth any sacrifice. She found him at the surveyor's office, just as he was finishing his work for the day. Through the window, Anna watched him carefully, rolling up maps and cleaning his instruments, his movements precise and efficient. He looked thinner than she remembered, and there were new lines of worry around his eyes, but he was still the most handsome man she'd ever seen. Anna took a deep breath, gathered her courage, and walked through the door. Michael looked up at the sound of the bell, and when he saw her, his face went through a series of emotions: surprise, hope, and a joy so profound it took her breath away. "Anna," he said, her name a prayer on his lips. "Hello, Michael," she replied, her voice shaking with nerves and anticipation. They stared at each other across the small office, neither moving, both afraid to hope that this reunion might be real. "What are you doing here?" Michael asked finally. Anna stepped closer, her heart hammering against her ribs. "I came to tell you that you were right. Love is worth the risk. Any risk."
Nice.
Michael's eyes filled with tears. "Anna, I came to tell you that I love you," she continued, the words tumbling out in a rush. "Not in spite of the sacrifice you made, but because of the kind of man who would make it. I love your strength, your integrity, your willingness to choose what's right over what's easy." Michael crossed the room in 3 quick strides, pulling Anna into his arms with desperate relief. "I was so afraid I'd lost you forever. You'll never lose me," Anna whispered against his chest. "I'm sorry I was such a coward before. I'm sorry I let fear keep us apart." Michael pulled back to look at her, his blue eyes bright with love and wonder. "Are you sure, Anna? Really sure? Because this life I'm offering you, it's not easy." Mansion, no servants, just hard work and simple living. Anna smiled, reaching up to touch his face with gentle fingers. I don't want a mansion. I want you. Just you, whatever that means. It means a surveyor's salary and a small house and beans for dinner most nights, Michael said with a laugh that held traces of tears. It means waking up next to the man I love and building a life together based on what actually matters, Anna replied. It means finally coming home. Michael's kiss was everything Anna remembered, and more tender and passionate and full of the promise of all the tomorrows they would share. When they finally broke apart, both were crying and laughing at the same time. Marry me, Michael said, his forehead resting against hers. Right now, tomorrow, as soon as we can find a preacher. Yes, Anna said without hesitation. Yes to everything. They were married the next morning in a small church on the outskirts of Tucson, with only the preacher and his wife as witnesses. Anna wore her best dress, the same one she'd worn to serve. That first supper Michael wore a simple suit he'd bought with his surveyor's wages. There were no fancy flowers or elaborate ceremonies, but as they exchanged vows in the morning sunlight streaming through the church windows, Anna had never felt more beautiful or more blessed. I promise to love you, Michael said, his voice steady and sure. In poverty and in whatever prosperity we might build together, in the hard times and the easy ones, for all the days of my life. Anna's vows were equally heartfelt. I promise to love you not for what you can give me, but for who you are. I promise to build a life with you that's rich in all the ways that matter: love, laughter, partnership, and the simple joy of sharing our days. When they kissed to seal their union, Anna felt as if her heart might burst with happiness. This man, this wonderful, sacrificial, loving man, was her husband. They would face whatever challenges came together, supported by a love strong enough to overcome any obstacle. 6 months later, Anna and Michael stood on the porch of their small house in Tucson. Watching the sun set over the desert landscape, they'd both come to love. Anna's hand rested on her gently rounded belly, where their first child was growing, while Michael's arms encircled them both with protective tenderness. Any regrets? Anna asked, leaning back against her husband's solid chest. Michael's laugh was warm and rich. It's about giving up a fortune for the woman I love. About choosing happiness over duty. About getting to wake up every morning next to you. He kissed the top of her head, not a single one. Anna smiled, thinking about how much their lives had changed since that dusty evening when a stranger with a lame horse had appeared at her door. She'd served him supper at sundown, never knowing he could buy the whole county, never suspecting that her simple meal would be the beginning of the greatest love story of her life. I love you, Michael Sinclair, she said softly. And I love you, Anna Sinclair, he replied, forever and always, no matter what the world brings us. As the stars began to appear in the vast desert sky, Anna reflected on the miracle of their love. They'd found each other across the divide of wealth and poverty, had chosen love over security and convenience, had built something beautiful from the most unlikely circumstances. Michael had been right. What they had was worth any sacrifice. Love, real love, was the greatest fortune of all. And Anna knew that as long as they faced the future together, they would be richer than any amount of money could ever make them. The desert wind carried the scent of sage and possibility, and in the distance, a coyote called to its mate under the endless western sky. Anna closed her eyes and smiled, completely at peace with the life they'd chosen and the love that would sustain them through whatever adventures lay ahead.